Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Kuiper, and today we are going to be talking about teaching philosophies. In general, we're going to answer the question, what is a teaching philosophy? And we're going to discuss the components of a teaching philosophy, what we might put into a teaching philosophy, and also the purpose of why we would write a teaching philosophy at the beginning of our educational careers and our careers as teachers, but also throughout our careers as we learn and grow as individuals. Ultimately, a teacher is the heart of each and every classroom. And the teacher's heart is really able to be seen and is evidenced by their own teaching philosophy, which is going to share who that teacher is and what type of teacher they want to be in practice. So we're going to use this definition of a teaching philosophy, which states a teaching philosophy is a brief statement that describes one's personal beliefs and values about the purpose of education while seeking to align these held beliefs to educational practices. So underneath that definition, there's two major components. The first one is that teaching philosophies are very much personal statements. Our own held beliefs of education and what we believe should classrooms should look like and how we should teach the next generation, that is going to be a part of our teaching philosophy. Additionally, our own experiences are a part of our teaching philosophy. Each of us has unique experiences that we have walked through. We have unique communities that make us uh, an individual. And all of those experiences are also going to be a part of our teaching philosophy. For example, you may have had an experience in a classroom where up until that point, you didn't feel seen or heard in an educational space. And then a teacher saw you and listened and gave you a voice in your classroom. And now as you step into a classroom, that is a something I would imagine you would value a great deal is listening and hearing the voice and the choice of our students in their educational experiences. It may be a cultural experience when we think about valuing the diversity of all students in our classrooms in our schools. That may be a primary component and should be a primary component when we think about valuing each and every child in our room. That is going to inform your teaching philosophy as well. So we break these down. Those are two main components to consider when we write a teaching philosophy. When we think about the formats, we've got our what we're going to consider, and then we want to break it down and think about what is a format of a teaching philosophy. Well, there's three primary sections that we want to consider when we go to write a teaching philosophy. The first one is that we want to share out right at the beginning our overall beliefs of teaching and learning. What do we believe about how students learn? The strategies that are most impactful? How should students be assessed of their learning? All of these things, when we consider teaching philosophies, when we consider learning theory, whether that be a more student-centered approach, maybe a more academic rationalism where we focus more on the core content and the need for content to be delivered to students. It could be more on the pursuit uh, of improved community outlooks and making a difference in our communities that may be informed in our learning theory and teaching philosophy. So that is the first section. Then the second section we move into is now more our practices. How do those held beliefs that we talked about in section one, how do we speak to those in practice now? What does it look like in your classroom? That's what we're going to share a little bit about in section two. And then we're going to move to section three, where we kind of begin this summary process of we've talked about our beliefs, we've talked about our practices. Now let's sum it up about how this informs or supports our future goals as an educator. And we summarize it into a nice piece to come to a close with our teaching philosophy. A few writing tips that we want to share here at the bottom. The first one is, as we've talked throughout, we know now that a teaching philosophy is very personal. And so it is very much a first person document. We want to write in the first person, use I and say, I believe uh, such and such about classrooms. I believe in student-centered collaborative approaches. I believe in assessing students in a way that is equitable. We also want to be specific and brief. This shouldn't be a document we go into and start typing and putting everything we think about education in there. Instead, we should be very specific and very pointed in this document and in our writing. We also want to use examples. This should be something where we pull back and we're reflective of how our experiences. Um, I know for me, my seventh grade history classroom was a really impactful season of life for me. That teacher, Mr. Arbogast, was very impactful for me. So all of those things are going to come into this section. We want to use examples in that. And then also we want to seek clarity over length. Again, goes alongside that brevity of our teaching philosophy. Here's some questions to consider, some sections to think about. Number one, we want to look at the school. Why do schools exist? Very general, but these are questions we want to be thinking about. In the teacher setting, what is the role of the teacher? What is the role of the student? What curriculum is being taught? When we walk into your classroom, what is the teacher doing? What are the students doing? As we answer these questions, we begin to formulate a philosophy of education and teaching as we look to share and reflect on our own practices. And then finally, I share this visual to think about where to go. We have all this information. We now feel confident in what a teaching philosophy is, but where do we begin? Well, we begin by being reflective. We begin by looking internally about our beliefs, about learning theory. We reflect on our experiences as both a student, a teacher, an educator, our experiences in our community, in our families. We also think about the history of education. How has education changed over time? What might it look like moving forward? And how can we be a part of that positive change to make the difference we want to make in our classrooms? And all of that we want to bring down to our personal goals. What is the impact we want to have? And how can we share that passion in this 1 to 2 page brief teaching philosophy document to say, this is who we want to be as educators, and let's go make an impact. Thank you all.